Okay, let's just wait a minute and see if anybody else comes, and then we'll start. Okay. I think we're up to more or less of this, maybe a paragraph afterwards, but let's start from here anyway. We're talking about the Jewish religion's basis, supposed to be basis of many other religions. So he says, no savakach, anybody knows history, knows that their religions, no true they see both klushos usmukos were created for very weak and strange reasons. Hadas Anglicanus Anglia, the Anglican Protestant religion. So the Melech Henry Ashmini was created by Henry VIII. When he wanted to divorce his wife, and the Pope in Rome refused to allow him to do that. I never, as he decided to rebel and to found an independent religion. And I really never understood how Anglicans can be Anglicans when they know that Henry VIII started the religion in order to get a divorce. So, but that there are Anglicans, and there are many Anglicans, and I think it's very strange. I guess it's like maybe maybe they thought Henry VIII was not really Lishma, but it became Lishma. Maybe some undercurrent of resistance to Rome in England before that, but it is very weird. Kain Dasa Mormonist, so to Mormonism, was created by the dream of one person. Well, it's not just that he had a dream. It's that Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon religion, claimed that he received tablets of gold from an angel named Moroni, and that the Book of Mormon resulted from that. And but then he hid away the tablets, and nobody ever saw them again. So nobody ever saw the originals. So it's very strange that millions of Mormons around the world accept that Joseph Smith was a prophet, and that he brought down the Book of Mormon as a latter-day revelation. It is very strange. This goes to show that either people don't think, or if people don't want to think. If something feels good, even if it doesn't feel good, because many religions don't feel good to the adherents of those religions, but even if it's something which is given to them and shown to them in a good light, they'll accept it, even though it's very strange. That's Islam. It's Islam, the first of Olam, spend the world not by the philosophical debate and persuasion, but by fear of the sword. Anybody did not surrender to the sword, he would be put to death. Well, it's not 100% true, because Muhammad did allow Jews and Christians to continue to live in Muslim lands, but as second-class citizens. But the overwhelming majority of adherents of Islam were forced converts because they were pagans, and the pagans were given a choice: either convert or die. So therefore, like sensible people, they decided, let's convert. So that's how Islam spread wide and far. In Mitzrayim, the Turkey, I feel Pakistan, and therefore Turkey, Pakistan, in Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan. A place where they did not have any direct tie to the founder of Islam. Muhammad was functioning his entire life in Saudi Arabia and the vicinity. Many millions accepted this religion. Maminim. One second. Check the picture. That's what we're looking for. Oh, okay, so the said that there are hundreds of millions of believers. It's not because anybody thought and analyzed Islam and said, "Oh, this makes sense to me." I assume that none of you ever read the Quran, but I did. I actually, when I had long trips by car to MTA when I was teaching MTA, so I listened to books on tape. I listened to the whole New Testament, to the Book of Mormon, and to the Quran. And of all the books, well, there's quite a lot of strangeness in all of them. But of all the books, the Quran is the most strange because the Quran is not written in chronological order. It's written that the longest chapters come first, and then the shortest chapters come later on. So it goes from chapters which are very, very long. The chapters are very, very short, a few words by the end of the Quran, and there's no chronological order. It's very difficult to make sense of it because it's very random. You can have events which occurred much earlier, described much later, and vice versa. So that doesn't lead to a very strong intellectual conviction about the profundity of Islam. But obviously, people confronted with two choices, Islam or death, most people choose Islam. So it's because of the societal pressure, and the thread of the sword, which they began spreading their religion. But America, it's funny, so America, North and South America, are Iraq Indianim. They're only Indians. Not true. And they also did not become Christians because they were convinced of the truth of Christianity. And but because of the intense successes of the Christian conquerors. Opposed to all this, the trustworthy basis of our belief in Judaism, is what took place. Rambam, remember the Ma'amad Har Sinai, which Hashem commanded us to always remember. You should be careful and watch your soul very much. Lest all the things which Hashem told us will be forgotten by you. The day that you stood before Hashem at Har Sinai. This is all the Rambam is still speaking. It's part of your brothers, to raise your children on the knowledge of that great event. And tell it in all the congregation its loftiness and significance. And because that is the hinge on which Judaism turns, and the evidence which leads us to that which is correct. The Rambam continues, Lebris Hazu, to this covenant and to this great thing which happened in reality. In other words, it happened in this world, not in some divine vision. And that the best of witnesses testify to, that Hashem, he said there was no such revelation, no such a gathering and interaction with Hashem beforehand, and there won't be afterwards. And in the Torah itself, it says that there's never going to be able to be a prophet who denies a true prophet who goes against the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. So if you're going to accept, let's say, Jesus or Muhammad or anybody else as a prophet, you can't say that you are dealing with a God who's all-knowing, all-powerful, and transcends time. Because he said in the Torah, any prophet comes to tell you to worship anything else, a prophet who tries to take away anything from the Torah is a false prophet. And yet, you decided to follow these prophets. Obviously, either you believe that they were truly prophets and God changed his mind, or without telling us, or that God is not. God makes mistakes. He thought, okay, this will be this will be what it's going to be in. Yeah, later on, he made it thought it was a mistake, and therefore he sent another religion. Because in the Torah itself, Hashem says this is a unique event, and this is never going to happen again. And if somebody comes and says, things have changed, we're going to take away some mitzvahs, you're not supposed to listen to that. Okay, so and this never happened. Tishma Uma that a nation's entirety should hear Var Hashem Yisrael, the word of God. Zaro, and will see his radiance, not himself, of course, but whatever they were able to see. Ayin b'ayin, eye to eye. Shlona says Emunah, and this is only done to fortify our Emunah chozek with a strength. Shelo yishaneh and shaneh eza mishaneh, that nobody else will be able to come and change it. That's what the Rambam is speaking. It says the Shlomo likens Am Yisrael to a beautiful woman, Shein bo mum, has no blemish. It says Kulach yafar esi mum ein bach. You are beautiful, my mate, and you have no blemish. And it's likened the people of other religions who want to draw the Jews to them, the poshim, the criminals, hamasisim, who are trying to lead people astray, avatimas anoshim who want to seduce women to do bad things. And he's bored, they'll say him. Maybe we will accept their religions and we'll accept their opinions. And the way the nations of the world speak to us in shiur is shuvi ashulamis, Am Yisrael, come back, shuvi nechzabach, and let's see you. In other words, let's deal with you. We answer, what are you going to see? What do you want to see in the Shulamis, the perfect one, Am Yisrael, who is like the dance in the camps? In other words, what do you want me to dance for you? She argues, says, give me an example. Where there are two machanos, the camp of Israel and the camp of God, zelu mazeh, one opposite the other. I will come and agree with your perspective. So again, there is no other religion which has this assertion that there was this mass revelation at its inception. There are other religions which talk about mostly extinct ones, who talk about events, but not of the size and of the revelation of Har Sinai. B'sikum, in conclusion, we don't believe because other people told us to believe. Well, this is like one body, Lumi, a national body, Murgan, which is organized. How so? In other words, why is he saying it seems that Emunah is believing other people? How can you say Emunah is not believing other people? Or can you say Emunah is on ourselves? Because entire generation, Dorosh Moshe, in Moshe's generation, Masala Dora Ba'achrav, gave the testimony to the next generation. Ba'afulu Dor Sha'achrav, and then them to the next generation. And when we do this, Kasher Kurim B'Torah, Kriya B'Tzibur. That's how we read the Torah out loud in the community every week, shana, year after year, and we can reach the same pasuk over and over again. So, in other words, with the same format every year. But Rambam Kosei Binyane Osus Umovsim, and the Rambam writes about one is the miracle. She has said Osam Eza Navi Sheker Midas Kriya, which some false prophet from some made up religion will make. And although the Rambam will not agree with the parentheses over here, but it's an important point to make nevertheless. So from the Chumash itself, it seems that they do have power to make miracles. In other words, miracles can be made by people who are false prophets. The Rambam will not agree with this. The Rambam says, will tell you, no, you can't, miracles cannot be made by false prophets. They don't have the power to do that. If they do it, it's just an illusion. The Rambam holds that magic doesn't exist. Holds that all the other Rishonim hold almost all. Magic is real, and it's a lot of magic is a koch of tumah. It's a power which comes from tumah, and it is a power which falsehood and false religions have. Rambam doesn't hold that way. The Rambam holds that magic is an illusion. It's a sleight of hand. It's nothing real takes place. That's why it's interesting how halachic issue was as a Jew allowed to become a magician. So according to all the other Rishonim, yes, a Jew can become a magician because the magic which a magician uses, we know it's not. It's just illusion, sleight of hand, deceiving the eye. But the Rambam holds there is no real magic at all. It doesn't exist. So therefore, the Rambam, the magic which the Torah forbade is the illusion and delusion and the sleight of hand, which is the magic which people practice today. So, but if you read the Chumash in a simple way, it seems not like the Rambam. It seems that the Hashem is saying, "I'm going to let other people come and test you. I'm going to let them make miracles, and you're supposed to know that miracle, you have to believe in God because you have that Masorah going back to Har Sinai. And I already warned you in the Torah, don't succumb to any of those other prophets, even though they can make miracles." And the Rama explains it very, very powerfully here. We can't forsake that which we know of our own testimony. The Navi gets up and makes great signs and wonders. What's tonight? Moshe Rabbeinu's law ain't Shomila. We don't listen to him. We know clearly that those signs, they are done by sorcery and magic. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was not based on miracles. Also says that we can do comparative miracles. My miracle is better than your miracle. We saw at Har Sinai. The Rambam doesn't classify Har Sinai as a miracle. If Har Sinai was considered to be a miracle, it would not prove anything. That's why it's so important to us to understand that that's why the Torah made the focus, the revelation, which took place. It wasn't miraculous in the sense that nature changed, but rather everybody saw what was behind nature, and they perceived HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, with our own eyes we saw it, meaning that Am Yisrael's eyes, because Emunah with Am Yisrael's ears. Like Moshe Rabbeinu heard. What's it like? So like people who testified to a person who saw something with his own eyes said he didn't see the right thing. I'm not going to listen to those witnesses. You know that they are certainly false witnesses. So again, miracles don't prove anything in Judaism, and sometimes you have stories, lots of stories about rebbes who did all sorts of miracles, right? So if you hear that Lubavitcher Rebbe made sorts of miracles, that's great, but it doesn't mean you have to become a Lubavitcher. If you heard that the Satmar Rebbe made miracles, that's great, but you don't have to become a Satmar, because miracles are not the proof which we look like for when we choose a approach, a derech, a community to join. You have to use it. You have to approach it intellectually. What makes the most sense for me, and not look at miracles. Miracles are considered to be something which is negative, which is not necessarily, because then you have to compare it to miracles, and especially if only a few people witness the miracle, and then they describe it to other people. So then you have broken telephone. You don't know exactly what miracle took place, if any. So the miracles are never the basis of belief. Before Matan Torah, they had to be the basis of belief because there was no revelation. But after Matan Torah, Everything is based on Matan Torah, and us having heard in Am Yisrael, I mean, not us today, but Am Yisrael having heard and interacted with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here, we can also point out Kol Shar Dasos Nimsu Aydei Anoshim Biltei Chachamim. All other religions were given from generation to generation by people who are not particularly smart. But das Nimsu Das B'Lashon Latinis. In Christianity, for example, the religion was given over in Latin. Also. So very few people understood it. Besides that, they didn't know, most people were illiterate. They didn't know how to read and write. So if they believe in things they couldn't check out, or clarify, by looking into the ancient sources. The Catholic Church was always, I don't think they still are, but they're always opposed to people who are not priests and other types of holy officials, so to speak, reading the Bible. Because they're afraid there's so many things in the Bible which contradict Christianity that people are going to start questioning. So they never encouraged reading and writing for the masses, and they still didn't encourage reading the Bible. When Gutenberg first published the Bible, it was a tremendous blow to the Catholic Church, because now everybody could afford a Bible in the house, and they started reading it, and they started seeing away contradictions. And to a large degree, Protestantism had to do with the popularization of the Bible. Protestants came over and said, you know what, this Catholicism, this is not biblical religion. There's all sorts of strange things which they attacked on to Christianity. So they went, let's go back to whatever the original Christianity they thought was. But so the Lamazos, on the other hand, Beinenu Yehudi, among us, the Jews, so Kol HaKohol, Kulo Yodei Sefer. Everybody knew books. The majority of men, at least, knew how to read. Because we were accustomed to daven, Bible Kriyat specific Tanakh, and a public reading of Tanakh. Also heard the same text every year. And they also heard a precise translation, because in shul they used to translate all the texts. Masores. We also have a tradition to de Ezra, that which was read in public by Ezra. Commotion Torah. I don't know what sefer that is, but then he talks about not just was there a revelation time of Moshe Rabbeinu, but there was also a rededication to the Torah time of Ezra, when everybody acknowledged it. And he was nobody ever changed anything in Torah Sheba'al Peh in the text. So when I was in I think it was, I don't remember, 7th, 8th, or 9th grade, so I decided, why should I have to look always at the Bach on the side of my Gemara to see how he fixed the Gemara? I'll just erase the words in the Gemara and write in the right words. So my Rebbe, whoever that was, got very upset at me. I know, very upset, but he was upset. He said, we don't do that. We don't, even if the text seems to be wrong, we don't change it, because we don't know whether our perception is right or whether we're just not understanding the text properly. So therefore, it was always that people who suggested changes for the text, they didn't introduce those changes to the text itself. They were on the side, like the Bach. Now, it's not 100% true, because like in the Bavli, anytime Rashi changed the Girsa, 99% of the time, the Girsa follows Rashi. Even whatever there before was there before, but once Rashi fixed it, they go by what Rashi fixed. But that's there are many other areas in which there also were things where it seems obvious, and nevertheless we preserved the Masorah as it was given to us. Right, and that's what he says here. El kamo shabach, bach, like the Bach Rashum Me'osam Farshim. Rak b'tzad adaf is the same. So same with the text. They only were on the side of the page. Their suggestions for changing the text. They didn't dare to change an actual word. This stubborn precision, Shamar Aleinu Kol Mishmar, protect us in all manner. and nothing will change over the generations. Now, of course, there are very minor changes. Rashi's Sefer Torah had a couple of vavs, or didn't have a couple of vavs. I don't remember the exact amount that we have. There is scribal error. And that's why the Moshe says, Halach Lamaisli says, if you listen to Kriyas Torah from a Sefer Torah which has too many letters or too few letters, because somebody put in a vowel in that it wasn't supposed to have one, took out a yud where it was supposed to be, and so on and so forth. Those are very minor changes. The biggest change amongst the deviation amongst the Sefer Torah is, for us today, is in the words Petzua Daka, the word Daka, in Ashkenazic Sefer Torah spelled with an aleph, and in Sephardic Sefer Torah spelled with a hey. So there is the changes are minute, and clearly, I shouldn't say clearly, are in all likelihood results of the scribes having made a mistake. And then when one copies one, the other copies him, so it just spreads. But other than that, we are very meticulous in not changing any text at all. We also have to point out, but other religions, all they ask is that you say, express your belief verbally. We don't really care if you, in other religions, they don't really care if you really believe in the religion or not. So you say you believe, right? Especially in Christianity. The whole idea, since in certain Christian groups, particularly the Protestants, there is no concept of good deeds. There's a concept of faith. So therefore, all you have to do is say, I believe. And you tell them, I have the faith. And that's enough. So it's easy. Their religions don't demand extreme changes in the way they lead their lives. Umasos, on the other hand, it's very it's also gotten much worse over time. Used to be when Catholic women went to church, they would cover their hair, they cover their heads. Even today, most Catholic women, when they go to meet the Pope, and most women will go to meet the Pope, they put on, it's called a mantilla, some sort of covering which will cover their hair. So that idea is almost completely lost, and that means that people can, just an example, people in those religions can shed customs, and it's not a big deal. A similar thing used to be in America. When people used to go to church on Sunday, they used to put on their best clothes, right? It was called their Sunday best. But in recent years, Americans go to church, they go in shorts and sandals. So there is a breakdown in religion in general, but the religion doesn't care, because religion is based primarily on what you say, not what you do. And what you say can be very superficial, as long as you say it. Okay, but we don't have that thing. Lumazos, on the other hand, Eitzel Yisrael by the Jews, there's Tarag mitzvahs. You have 600 mitzvahs, Hamagbilas Ma'odiyas Shadam, which severely curtail person the Yetzirah. B'chol Tchum Shechayanosh, in any field of human life. Bein mishpacha, whether it's with family laws, bein mislar or commercial laws, bein mediyos or political laws, yesh hachvanas Torah. The Torah directs us, tells us this is the way to go. When millions of Jews over the generations preserve those boundaries, it's on the other hand, not because anybody forced them to do it. For most of Jewish history, you could convert out of Judaism quite easily and just chuck the whole thing. It was a free choice. So, but most of them still kept it. Because their minds compelled them to believe these things. They're not like believers in other religions. From whom no sacrifice is demanded, nor anguish, or torture, so they should be able to actually practice what they say with their mouths. It's almost olam by nature world. Even you want to convert, you don't have to have system of belief. In other words, by Judaism, you have to know about Judaism before you convert. By Christianity and Islam, you don't know about Christianity and Islam. You just say you accept so and so. That's it. You can be ignorant and still become Muslim or Christian, etc., etc. So, all they require you is your heart, as opposed to Judaism, which requires profound understanding. This is in order to become Jewish. So, obviously, the whole system among Jews is such that it indicates that there was a creator who gave the Torah at Sinai, because there's an unbroken chain of transmission from then till now, generation after generation, imparting this knowledge and this fact to the next generation. So just like history to be factual, right? You don't have to you don't have to verbalize your acceptance of history. You know it's factual, and you assume that whatever facts they give you, within reason, are true. So to the by Judaism, we assume that the facts which we know are true, again within reason, but most of it, not all of it. So therefore, what happens is that we have this idea that from the Jew's perspective, it's not enough to say something; you have to know it, to whatever way. Primarily through history, that this is the reality. And that's why we can say that you yourself are the source of your Emunah, because you yourself have to be convinced of history. And if you're convinced of history, you accept it as reality. Not sure if that came across completely, but the idea is that we have this fundamental principle that the chain of the generations makes us all one, as if we were ourselves in Har Sinai. Okay. And next matter of Emunah is very similar. I'm not sure we divide them into two. Ofen Vav, Edus Avos B'neim, how parents testify to their children. Another aspect which distinguishes between our religions and other religions. Eslam yesh interestinios. There are in the years, it says here in the brackets, there are specific interests or the Shalkomas Kamarim of a bunch of priests, missionaries, and missionaries. Hamifatim lacherim. They're the elite, and they convince everybody else. Out of a ambition to make themselves great. This is true about any group, any bunch of people. They want to adorn their group and make it desirable, and get more supporters. Din gava pratis, and the arrogance of an individual, din gava tiris, and the arrogance of a community, shavim medavas, they are equal in this respect. Ain hadavar kain kasher amechanech mlamei livno. So if a priest is your educator, or if an imam is your educator, so he has a vested interest in convincing you that your religion is true, because otherwise he's not going to get donations. He's not going to be able to buy food. He's not going to be able to survive. He's not going to be able to aspire to have fine things. But when a father educates his child, he doesn't educate his child for all these ulterior motives. He educates his child because he wants to be educated. That's why, until the days of Yeshua ben Gamla, who was one of the Tanoim, one of the Kohanim Gedolim, young kids were not taught in school. They were taught at home by their parents, because the parents bring this sense of, I have no interest. I'm not going to gain anything for you learning this. I want to show you what's good, right? So that's an advantage of when the religion is given over by parents and children, as opposed to a bunch of select people who then persuade others to follow them. And as he says, when a father teaches and educates his son, he really is concerned for the best possible situation for his son, and the most effective thing for his children. Ramban writes, when we copy over this matter of Odos Mamon Sinai Mad Torah of the revelation of Sinai given Torah Levanenu to our children, Yedu Shoyah Davar Emes. They'll know this is true, but somebody's on any doubt. Kilu Rohu Kol B'Chol, as if they saw Hashem in every generation. Kilo Na'i Shekel Levanenu. Nobody wants to testify falsely to their children. V'lo Nachil Some Davar Hevel, and won't bestow upon them something which is empty. So this man teaches us Dor Shalem Shalavos Hamostim Oseidus B'Neim, the complete generation, entire generation of fathers who give over their testimony to their children. Hayitachin she self Yavtus Emes is apostle to distort and twist the truth. And he says again, it's not like the situation by the nation of the world. Shama Avos Masim Hashem Aidea Kamarim. Even if fathers give something, it's not what they heard from their own father. I feel like I was saying with them after their father, they call the priest their father. That's not really a father. He has the best interest in having his church survive and thrive. Not by us. It is literally the father. And even if father is not particularly educated himself, but he makes Kiddush every Friday night. Kiddush every Friday night is giving over the Masorah of the world being created by God. Makes Kiddush Shabbos morning. Shabbos morning is the Masorah of them having left Egypt, gone to Sinai, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't have to be explicit. I sit you down and I say, this is the Masorah. A parent lives it and the child guesses that way. And that goes all the way back to Sinai. So that is, the Avos are not going to testify falsely to their children. Okay. I'm going to just, I don't know if we're going to start the next one. I'm going to give an introduction to it, which is a lot of the Rishonim were against philosophy. Most Rishonim against philosophy. They thought philosophy is a dangerous system, which is going to lead people to thinking strange thoughts. And it's going to lead a lot of people away from being Shomei Torah mitzvahs. So therefore, they rejected the use of philosophy as a means of proving the existence of God. Didn't like it. But I think, I'm not sure the dangers were in previous generations, but I don't think it's particularly dangerous nowadays. I think the philosophical proof which he's going to give is very simple philosophical proof, relatively speaking, and it's not something which is so convoluted that you have to take on all sorts of new knowledge in order to understand it. So he's going to give us the Chovos HaVavos proof, which is the basic philosophical proof of first cause. I'll get into it next week, but it basically means every cause has a cause. It's cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. So go backwards: effect, cause, effect, cause, effect, cause. They're constantly cause and effects. The first cause is Hashem. You couldn't get to the first effect without something coming before it. What's that first cause? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There must have been a first cause, which set everything in motion. Okay, we'll stop here for this evening. There's a Hashem pick up on Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.